have a risk of the anchoring of inflation expectation. That trade-off existed even before. Raising rates would have led to stresses in financial market, like last year, where bond yields went much higher, credit spread widened. That stress is becoming more severe today because now we have systemic financial problems, but we are also in a situation inflation is stayed way too high. And the idea that this financial stress is going to cause inflation to drop is not yet in the economic data. So there is a dilemma for central banks.
Although a lot of people are saying that they see credit conditions tightening. We heard earlier from Larry Fink of BlackRock saying that he sees a slow-rolling crisis that's going to move from the banking system to private credit, to private equity. How does your view kind of tie into this sort of inherent credit tightening that we see across a whole host of assets?
Certainly, there's going to be a tightening of financial conditions, at least in terms of credit spreads. Bond yields are falling, but on the short and long end, that's an easing of financial condition that eventually might lead to an economic slowdown. But the reality is inflation today is way too high, and it's going to remain too high because the forces that are leading to high inflation, like, for example, very tight labor market, are still with us. And therefore, that's going to be a cause of persistent inflation. And the idea that eventually tightening of financial conditions is going to cause a slowdown of the economy and a weakening of inflation is not yet in the data. So there is a really contradiction between achieving economic stability and lower inflation and maintaining financial stability today.
What a conflict, what a conflict. Nouriel, I've got 45 seconds left. I wanted to give you the opportunity to try and answer this. Banks found out that a risk was where they thought the safety was. Nouriel, where's the safety now?
Well, the safety is not in long-term treasuries. I've been writing for it for over a year. You know, if average inflation were to be, say, 5%, 10-year treasury eventually would have to be 7%. Today, they're around 3.5%. Last year, you lost 20% on your safe bonds, more than you lost on your S&P because yield went from 1 towards 3. If they go from 3.5 to 7 over the medium term, there'll be further bloodbath on $20 trillion of long-duration risk assets. The solution is going to be short-term treasury, TIPS, gold, precious metals, and other hedges against inflation. That's where you have to go. And investors only now are starting to realize it, that that's what you have to do.
It's going to be a conversation you and I have, the whole of this team, for a long time. Nouriel, thank you, sir. Nouriel Rabini there of Rabini Macro Associates, and Tom, of course, the author of Mega Threats.
Mega Threats, and then there's